going on, y'all? Jordan here. Another episode of Lightning Latest. Pretty busy weekend. We got a few things on tap today. But we're first going to start with this another latest report from The Athletic, right? And in this report they talked about current players who could be Hall of Fame bound at some point. As you can probably guess, there are a few Bolts players which will probably get there at some point. We're going to talk about, four of them in particular. Cooch is one, Vasilevsky, our current captain, Victor Hedman, and Braden Point. Now, the Athletics' Peter Baugh thinks that all three of Cooch, Hetty, and Vasi are considered to be, probable locks. Vasilevsky, you can definitely make the argument he's going to be there. He's one of the best goalies of all time, and we're truly watching one of the best ever to do it, and it's great to see. So, obviously, he makes sense, right? Hetty, definitely you can make that argument as well. You know, he's one of the best defensive players in the game today still, even at his age. Being named captain last year kind of reinvigorated him, pushed him forward, and gave him, I don't want to say give him a new sense of purpose because, he's always played hard and he's one of our most beloved players. But it feels like maybe, just maybe step that up a little bit because he's now the captain. However, we still love our Big Sweet. So it makes sense for him to also be a Hall of Fame candidate. And, if his career ended tomorrow, he'd probably get in. As for Cooch, are we really gonna argue why he shouldn't be in there? He's gonna make it as well. Him and Vasi, man, those Russian boys save us almost on a nightly basis. So, it's great to see them getting their flowers. It's still surprising that Kucherov has never won the Hart. It's just because we talked about it the other day, he's faced so much stiff talent. However, that shouldn't be something that limits him going forward. So all three of them, I can easily see why Ball has listed them as, if their career ended today, they'd probably get it, on the first try, which is kind of wild, but still a cool thing to think about. Pointer, he mentioned to check back in a few years because he's gotten off to a strong start. Yeah, he's dealt with a couple injuries here and there, but if he continues the pace he's on, it makes perfect sense for him to get there at some point, right? You keep chipping in, at least 60, 70 points a year, 30, 40 of those points are goals. Doing that for 10 to 12 years, that seems pretty self-explanatory, no? It seems like it'd be kind of just sliding in right into Hall of Fame noteworthiness. So it's pretty interesting to think about. They also listed two former Lightning players on the list as well. One of them is Corey Perry. He played for us for a year. Now he's in that stage of his career where he's just chasing a Stanley Cup. There's nothing wrong with that. When we had him here for a season, he was great talent for us. Loved having him. Kind of wish he was still here. But, he's still chasing down the first Stanley Cup of his career. Hopefully he gets it this year, but, we prefer to get it over him. Last one is obviously Stammer, right? He went to Nashville last year. That one still stings. Longtime captain, former first overall pick. He'll always hold a special place in our hearts. But, it still kind of stings to talk about. But he's considered to be a Hall of Fame lock as well from Peter Baugh. So that's pretty interesting. But we're going to switch gears now because we're only a few weeks away from opening night. It's pretty cool. It's we're going to be playing the Ottawa Senators at home on October 9th. They're an Atlantic Division rival of ours, right? They only finished 5 points below us. They were in 4th place. They made the playoffs, 97 points. It's a good team, right? They've done a really good job rebuilding them, coming through that rebuild, and now getting back to the playoffs. They did lose to Toronto in 6 games in the first round, and we lost to the Panthers in 5. So, kind of in a similar boat with how we played last year. Now, the goal is obviously to get off to the best start possible this year. A win over the Senators opening night would certainly get us to that. So it's interesting to see just how well both teams match up, and we're going to be talking about that over the next few days. We're going to start previewing what these early season opponents look like. I'm really excited to dive into that with y'all and talk to you about it more in the next few days moving forward. So, opening night, less than 2 months away now, because today is August 11th. So, October 9th isn't too far away, right? And then we're going to switch gears now to a new addition to the team, Jacob Pelletier, right? What does he bring to this team, right? What does he bring to the Bolts? He's a former first rounder with the Flames. He was there for 2.5 years, and he was traded in January to Philly. He played with the Flyers through the end of last year, and then became a free agent, signed with us, right? He played with Torts in Philly. Hey, any player that can prove his worth under Torts, plays hard, knows how to move the puck, knows how to get the puck into the net, assist, find other players that can continuously put out offense is a good addition for me. He's still really young too, okay? He's still a young guy. He's only been in the league a couple years. So the 3-year deal that the front office signed him to makes sense. Also, it's around $775,000 a year. So under $1 million, not bad, right? You got to see what he can do. He's shown in some limited time, 49 games last year. He had 19 points, 7 goals, 12 assists. Pretty solid plus minus of +7 as well. So seeing what he can do moving forward in like that third or fourth line role, it's the same thing as Goncalves, right? And all these other young guys, we got to see where they can develop and be better for us. And if he can continue to get better, improve himself in more and more opportunity, then this contract's going to look like a steal. Granted, we could lose him in 3 years, especially if he blows up. But, that's the kind of deal that we're looking for, right? We're trying to bring in these young players to build the depth to improve these third and fourth lines. So when we hit the first round of the playoffs, we hit the second round of the playoffs, we have more added scoring punch. And that's incredibly important because think about playoff time, right? You need those goals. You need those assists. You need those players that are willing to get their hands dirty, really get into the creases, really try to fight for the puck. Jacob Pelletier shows all of that and more. He's shown all of that in limited spurts. Will it transition to the ice here at Amalie? That's the question, right? That's why he signed a deal like this. It gives them time to continue his development at the top level. And that's incredibly important because if we don't have those young players that develop into those next lines of stars, we're not doing our jobs right. We talked about a little bit earlier with the Hall of Fame bound players. Hetty's not going to be here forever. Cooch isn't going to be here forever. Vassy. We need that next way to continuously develop and be there next. I'm not saying Pelletier is going to be anywhere near the impact those 3 players have had on this franchise. But if he can come in and contribute and say maybe become sort of like a Yanni Gourde or a Tyler Johnson, those third or fourth line guys that grind out goals and assists and are consistently there, that's the kind of player we want, especially when we're chasing down another playoff spot. And this last intriguing thought came up to me, and it's interesting. We talked about Connor McDavid the other day, right? Connor McDavid and blue and white. Now, what would Kirill Kaprizov look like? It would be interesting. He's also slated to be a free agent in 2026, right? He's going to be 29 when he hits the market. He only played 41 games last year. He had some injuries, all right? But in those 41 games, 56 points, all right? 25 goals and 31 assists, plus 19 in a plus minus. The guy's a superstar, all right? He's going to... We just got to keep him healthy. Now that's always the if and or but, right? Staying healthy. So would he be worth the kind of money that a McDavid would get, or an Artemi Panarin, or some of these other guys that are going to be free agents? He should make more than Panarin just because he's younger and he is in his prime right now. Not as much as McDavid. McDavid's going to blow the water. No matter if it's the Oilers or some other team that signs him, he's going to break the record. as long as he stays healthy. But even if he doesn't, he still might break the annual record. So, should be interesting. Kaprizov would be expensive. Would he be as much as Mitch Marner was, where he's now getting $12 million a year from the Vegas Golden Knights? Possibly. Especially if he has a healthy 2025-2026. If he stays on the ice, plays 75, 80 games, contributes, 70, 80 points, if not more, based on his point per game average last year, 56 points in 41 games, I think a point a game is a pretty easily surpassable mark for Kaprizov. But, man, could you imagine him? Imagine him in the blue and white. Oh, man, just... The goal is to make an already strong offense even deadlier. Having a player like this would fit that description. It's something really interesting to think about moving forward. Well, that's it for today's Lightning Latest. We have some more content coming starting tomorrow. I'm really interested to dive more into these opening few games and some other interesting tidbits. We're going to continue also talking about the 2026 free agent class and what they could look like as a whole. So, this is Jordan with Lightning Latest. We'll see you tomorrow.